So, now it's been 3 years ever since I done my first ever review on this channel. But since I already remade that video, I think it's finally about time that I get to the second game that I've ever done a full review on, Dragon Ball Raging Blast. You know, I actually uploaded that original review on the same day as my birthday, May 29th. But anyways, this game has a lot of sentimental value to me because it was one of the first fighting games I ever played. Yeah, before Super Smash Bros, I had this game, and besides Mario, or Sonic, or Jack or Sly, this was one of the games I put a lot of hours into ever since I was a 4-year-old. And again, the old review isn't going to be deleted because there's still a lot of memories I have with that review, and I don't want to just wipe it off the face of the planet. And I know some of you guys still love that video since it's my second most viewed review on this channel. But it's not really that great. Just like my Sonic Generations video, I was using KineMaster and I really turned off anything that made any noise in the background so I could hear it with my TV. And in fact, I sound like one of those 8-year-olds on Xbox Live too, so.
Anyway, let's get on to the gameplay. There's lots of game modes. There's story, tournament, arcade, survival, score attack, time attack, KO attack, destruction, team battle, extreme attack, coaching machine, Dragon Ball battle, and online.
Yeah, I think it's time that I finally give this game the proper respect that it really deserves. I mean, where should I even start? I mean, if you're not an anime in the first place, then it's not really likely that you wouldn't know what Dragon Ball Z is. It was all over the place back in the early 2000s, and I feel like it's kind of unnecessary to go into the backstory of Dragon Ball Z since the majority of the goddamn population should know what it is. But I'll do it since I do it for every other franchise I look into. So Dragon Ball started off as a manga back in 1984, which was eventually evolved into an anime series in 88. Series creator Akira Toriyama was a huge fan of all types of martial arts, movies, and all the part of the manga since World Tournament became more prominent throughout the series. Anyway, shortly after Dragon Ball ended, Dragon Ball Z ended, not even a month after the original series ended, and there was way more fights than it was in Dragon Ball. A lot of throwing fists, kicking, energy blasts everywhere, explosions, and I ate all this shit up when I was younger. I mean, Dragon Ball Z never really had great storytelling since the series went up to 291 episodes. But thankfully we had Dragon Ball Z Kai, which cut down on all the filler, and was actually how I got into the series. I remember seeing promos for it when it was airing on Nicktoons. The series initially ended at the end of the Cell Saga, which confused the fuck out of me when I first saw clips of the Buu Saga online. But then Dragon Ball Z Kai eventually came to Adult Swim's anime blog, Toonami. I remember actually being really excited when they first started showing promos for Dragon Ball Z Kai when it was first coming to Toonami, since I didn't remember a lot since the series ended on Nicktoons. But when I finally watched it, it was a lot more mature than I actually remember it being.
You ruthless, heartless bastard! Don't think I haven't got the strength to avenge my friends, you bastard! The fate this bastard dealt him was the last thing he deserved!
There was a lot more swearing, and it was more bloodier than the original series, since Nicktoons kind of dabbled down on all the blood and all the more mature stuff. But I'll never really get why they toned out the hole in Goku and Raditz gut and just replaced it with a bruise. But anyway, I've been following Dragon Ball Z for as long as I've been able to understand words. I remember being really sad when Super was first airing, but I wasn't able to watch it until it came to Toonami. And along with DBZ Kai, the final chapters, they actually managed to make a promo for the Great Saiyaman and actually look cool. But anyway, since Dragon Ball Z was pretty popular, there was no doubt that there was going to be a lot of video game tie-ins. The earliest memory that most people have with Dragon Ball Z games was Dragon Ball Z Budokai. I personally wouldn't start playing Dragon Ball Z games until Raging Blast, actually. After Raging Blast 2, I kind of took a break from Dragon Ball Z games until Xenoverse 5 years later. Now, this isn't me saying that I grew out of Dragon Ball Z games, I just didn't know about them. I never played Burst Limit, Ultimate Tenkaichi, or Battle Z, and I wouldn't get into the Tenkaichi games until like 2 or 3 years ago. My brother would always tell me stories about how good Tenkaichi 3 was. I remember playing Tenkaichi 1 for the first time, I think, and that was really missing out on the Tenkaichi games. But then when I played Tenkaichi 2 and 3 and then came back to this game, yeah, it's pretty rough. I played Tenkaichi 2 and the fighting is so much more faster, and the story mode is probably the best in the series. Then there's Tenkaichi 3 and yeah, I can see why my brother loves this game so much. The story mode isn't really as good as Tenkaichi 2, but the gameplay and the mechanics more than makes up for it. If you haven't played this game yet, then I really recommend that you do. I honestly think that this might be one of the best fighting games out there. Like, I'm serious, you don't have to be a fan of Dragon Ball Z to enjoy this game. I only played Budokai 1 a few months ago, and I didn't really like it that much. The fighting just really felt so awkward to me, and it was just really hard to pull off combo chains. And I don't know if this was just me, but there was such a huge difficulty spike in the story mode. I mean, the game started off pretty fine, but when I got to Freeze, like, I had my ass kicked for hours on end, and it only got worse when I got to the Cell Saga. I was pretty close to snapping my controller in half in some of these fights. I did play Budokai 2, and while I did thought that the fighting was easier to get into than Budokai 1, I didn't really find the Dragon Ball Universe mode to be that interesting. I haven't played Budokai 3 yet as I'm writing this video, but I had heard that it's the best in the trilogy, so maybe I'll like it that a little bit more, but yeah, I didn't really enjoy myself with these games so much with the Tenkaichi games. But if there's one thing I can give Budokai 1 for, is that besides Tenkaichi 2, Budokai 1 probably does the best job in making the story mode feel exactly an episode from the anime. Like for 2002, these cinematics are actually animated really well and aged better than most PS2 games at the time. I even love how the intro was a one-to-one recreation of the opening from the show. I mean, yeah, it can look a little bit dated in some parts, but I still think it looks pretty good. When I was first introduced to Raging Blast, I remember watching my brother play on his PS3, and I thought the game looked amazing back then. So when I finally played the game for myself, I completely loved it, and I would always go into my brother's room just to play it when he wasn't there. And whenever he got home, he would be pretty pissed. I mean, I was only 4 years old at the time, so I didn't think he would care that much. And besides, that was over 10 years ago, so I thought he would hold a grudge about that now. Afterwards, I would have a huge infatuation over this game. Like, I would used to watch YouTube videos on it, like Let's Plays and seeing all the characters' ultimate attacks. Like, I was really obsessed with this game. But now, I finally got my own PS3, and that gave me the chance to finally play this game and relive some memories. And I thought, why not just remake my old review of the game, because it could use a little bit of a tweaking. Although, just a bit of a warning, I might be a little bit biased here, since I've been playing this game for 11 years so it might be a little bit hard for me to do this without having the nostalgia goggles on. And don't worry, I don't think that the game's perfect. I'll get to the problems that the game has, but now let's just stop wasting time and get this video rolling. And if you guys are wondering, I'm playing the PS3 version of this game. I haven't played the 360 version, but from what I've seen, they're basically the same game. The only difference being if you want to play this game with a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller. So we start the game and we get this intro, and it might be one of my favorite intros in the DBZ game series. Like, the song is bop, the characters look smooth and animated really fluidly, and this is probably the only time we'll get to see Future Trunks fight Kid Buu. Now there's the main menu screen, which might be one of my favorite menu screens from a Dragon Ball Z game. You can tell that there was a lot of ambition put into this since there's a lot going on. You can see the Dragon Balls as options, the dragons flying everywhere. The Dragon Balls have a little bit of details like Helmet House being the options, Castle Warping in the museum options, King Kai's place and online. You can even see King Yemba's place in the background. So yeah, let's get on to the game modes that this game has. There's Dragon Battle Collection, Dojo, World Tournament, Versus, Super Battle Trial, Museum, Ultimate Customize, and Online. So yeah, we have a lot to go over, so let's start with Dragon Battle Collection first. This mode is basically like Dragon Ball history from the Tenkaichi games, which is just going through the story of Dragon Ball Z, from the encounter of Raditz all the way up to the final battle with Buu. The story mode is pretty long, but you don't have to go through everything. Probably one of the best parts about the story mode is that not only can you skip fights in a saga, but you can actually skip entire sagas too. So you can just go straight from the same saga and just go to the Android saga if you want. This game's story mode has a lot more fights than Tenkaichi 3 story mode. I don't think this game's story mode is as good as Tenkaichi 2 or Budokai 1 story mode, but it's still pretty fun to play through. It does a pretty good job on just getting you into the action and cutting all the filler from the show, although what kind of bothers me is how some events happen in cutscenes like Piccolo's death, Goku going Super Saiyan for the first time, and Gohan saving Vegeta, but things like Goku and Vegeta's beam struggle, the Father and Son Kamehameha, and Goku's Spirit Bomb on Kid Buu are all done in the game. I want to say that they probably couldn't be able to do that since they were pretty limited with the hardware at the time, but at the same time, if they can do that for those moments, I don't understand why all these scenes don't have cinematics. I mean, I do see people saying that they like doing them in the game, so I guess that's just me then. The highlight of this game's story mode, in my opinion, is the what-if stories. Just like in the Tenkaichi games, you get to go through a lot of non-canon scenarios, like if the Ginyu Force recruited new members, or if Videl trained with Gohan and Piccolo, and if Trunks fought his younger self, which actually did happen in Super, so I guess that's pretty cool. I think my favorite would have to be if Gogeta and Vegeta fought, because it's the one fight in the story mode that has you play as both characters and with different outcomes. If Gogeta wins, then Vegeta will say that he wins by default since his fusion lasts forever, which was technically debunked in Super. If Vegeta wins, then Gogeta will ask how he'll explain the fact that Goku and Vegeta are fused forever with the Potaro earrings to Bulma and Chi-Chi. Both of them are really funny. Now we just need a game where we can play with 3 people at once so we can have a Gogeta versus Vegeta versus Gotenks. I do have a couple of problems with this game's story mode. For one, I don't really like how you're forcing into switching into another character out of nowhere. It kind of just messes up any flow that you have. If it was more like Tenkaichi 3, where you can just press R3 to switch to someone if you want to, and if you didn't, you just continue to fight as normal, then I wouldn't have minded, but there's so much switching this game. But it's not the worst thing ever though. What is pretty bad is the star system. So most fights are unlocked from the start. Some of them you can just unlock them by beating other battles, but some fights you have to unlock them by getting them in the star shop. This is without a doubt the worst part in the story mode. I wouldn't mind it this much if it wasn't because some fights were locked behind it. I mean, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but if you want the trophies or unlock characters or costumes, you're gonna have to be grinding for stars. What makes this really tedious is the fact that missions aren't unlocked from the start, so you have to play through a fight at least 2 times to get everything, but that's really the only bad part of story mode overall. So overall, the story mode in this game is pretty decent, but I wouldn't recommend playing it all in one sitting or trying to get all the stars, unless you want to unlock fights, music tracks, characters, and costumes. Let's talk about the tournament mode. This is pretty much a staple for any Dragon Ball Z game and honestly any fighting game. This isn't a really deep tournament mode. You pick a character, pick a number of characters you want to play against, you pick a difficulty, and then you start fighting them. You unlock moves for characters depending on the difficulty and how many participants are in the tournament, although the attacks are given at random, so don't expect a specific move that you want to automatically be there. Here you can only pick 2 tournaments to play in, the World Martial Arts Tournament and the Cell Games. While it's kind of disappointing that there aren't as many stages to choose from like in Tenkaichi 3, I think the fact that you unlock super attacks more than makes up for it. My favorite part about this mode is the fact that you can have a Hercule and the other announcer commentate over your match, and it's pretty cool to listen to. It's fun hearing the champ talk about how everything is fake and it's all magic just like in the show. But if you don't like it, then you have the option to turn it off. But the fact that he's even there is still pretty cool, since it really feels like you're fighting in a tournament from the show. The last thing to talk about for tournament is that you can no longer get ring outs, which might sound mad, but it's thoughts for that one asshole who tries to get cheap wins. Next is Dojo. This is basically just the training mode of the game, where you learn the basic fighting mechanics of the game like smash attacks, sways, and charge attacks. There are 3 types of tutorials that you can do. The first one being the Battle Dojo for beginners, where you can learn the basic moves like moving, dashing, homing dashing, and melee combat. The second being the Battle Dojo Basics, we get to learn more stuff like combo chains and charging your energy. And the final one is a Battle Dojo Advanced, where you get to learn all of the more advanced moves like pursuit attacks, ki blasts, and guarding. What I really love about this training mode is that the fact that it's basically just treated like Gohan doing sparring matches with Goku and Piccolo. Moving on, we got Super Battle Trial Mode, where you get to play through a bunch of modes. Let's run down the list. First you have Arcade Mode, Survival, Score Attack, Time Attack, KO Attack, Destruction, Team Battle, Extreme Attack, Punching Machine, and Dragon Ball Battle. Let's start with Arcade. Arcade Mode is a pretty standard mode for a fighting game. You fight through 10 rounds and you get money after each round. If you're in 3rd place or higher, you unlock more modes. Next is Volvo Mode, a 50-man match on the same map. Once you kill another person, another opponent tags in, and the match ends until you die or kill 50 opponents. What's pretty cool is that whenever you kill 10 opponents, another track starts playing. It's nothing really special, I just want to bring that up. Anyway, Survival is a pretty fun mode, but it gets kind of repetitive after a couple of rounds. Score Attack is where you get to play against an immortal opponent and try to get as much points as you can, like doing combo chains and using super attacks and ultimate attacks. In Time Attack, you play against 5 opponents to see how fast you can kill them. In KO Attack, you face a very weak opponents to see how fast you can beat them in under 5 minutes. You have unlimited ki in this mode, so you can just spam super and ultimate attacks as much as you can. Destruction is a little bit more different. Instead of finding your opponent, you're destroying the stage, which is pretty fun, but it gets kind of annoying when the opponent keeps on charging at you when you really don't need them to. Team Battle has you fight a number of teams, as each of them will have labels like the Halo Brothers, Bulma's Family, and Handsome Gang. As you beat fights, you unlock more teams. It's a pretty fun mode, but you probably shouldn't try to beat all the fights in one sitting since there's a lot of teams to fight. There's 10 sets of them and 5 teams to fight. Extreme Battle has you fight against really strong opponents. After you beat someone, your power level and ranking goes up, and so does your opponent. It's all simple fun, and the fight gets more intense the more players you fight. Also, characters have their own rankings, so you can go through this mode more than once with other characters. Punching Machine is a full-blown mini-game. Here you play as a Videl on the tournament stage and try to get as many points as you can off this Punching Machine. This mode might be one of my favorites in this game because it's honestly kind of addicting trying to get the highest score possible. And you can actually break the Punching Machine if you play it long enough. Finally, there is Dragon Ball Battle. This mode isn't unlocked from the start like the rest. You play through the other modes that I mentioned and get the best score to unlock it. Here you fight a random opponent, and if you win, you're rewarded with a Dragon Ball. Once you get all 7, you're able to summon Shinron. By summoning Shinron, you're able to unlock moves for characters like Goku and everyone else. You can also earn stuff like Mac Computer to make the computer player stronger, or you can unlock a Halo, which puts a halo on your character's head. It's great to actually be able to earn the Dragon Balls ourselves and not just be rewarded to us randomly like in BT3. Next we have the Museum. This is basically an encyclopedia of most of the characters from the DBZ canon. You can check out their bios, their history, and you can even listen to their voice lines too. While you're doing all this, you have this really relaxing theme playing in the background.
Hello, my name's Gohan. I'll fight you as hard as I can. Is this because of Mr. Piccolo's training? You don't scare me, you bully! You leave my dad alone! What you did to Mr. Piccolo, I'll never forgive you! Thank you, Mr. Piccolo!
Raging Blast has a fantastic soundtrack, but I don't want to gush about that right now, so I'll save that for later. You can also listen to music tracks, listen to conversations from the story mode, and watch replays as you save from versus matches. Versus is a pretty typical versus mode for a fighting game. You pick a character, you pick a stage, and you fight. You either play with a computer player or with a friend if available. The character roster in this game is pretty good. Also nowhere near as many characters as in Tenkaichi 3. I feel like they didn't add as many characters because they were still working on a new engine for this game and didn't want to add too many characters just yet. Anyway, this game has 43 characters, not counting transformations. It has all of the important characters from Z, but there are a couple of characters that are left off. Ultimate Gohan, Deborah, Cyberman, Bobbity, Cell Jr., Nail, and Mecha Frieza. I don't really think that it hurts the game as a whole, but it does kind of hurt the story mode because since there's no Ultimate Gohan, the game just kind of goes from the Gotenks fight and just go to the fight with Vegito, and this kind of makes the story feel a little bit disconnected and pretty confusing if you didn't already know the story of Dragon Ball Z. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I don't know, like, imagine trying to get into My Hero, but then starting at the sports festival arc. Some things just won't make any sense if you just do that. And also makes the transformation with Buhan kind of weird since they don't have an Ultimate Gohan model in the game's code. So they just used Goku to make it look like it was Gohan. And I kind of like how they worked around that, but it just kind of looks lazy though. But hey, the game might not have some important characters, but at least it does have Super Saiyan 3, Vegeta, and Broly, so all you Vegeta fans who are mad that he never got to go Super Saiyan 3 like me, you all can finally be happy. You can also unlock costumes for characters, which means you can play a Super Saiyan 3 Goku in the outfit he fought Raditz in, and you can play a Super Vegeta in his Buu outfit, which would be pretty cool if I could play as Majin Vegeta or Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta in his Saiyan armor. But if you don't have anyone to play around in your house, then you can always try to play online. Now, I didn't think that there would be any people who would still play this game online, but I did manage to find a couple of people, and I got my ass kicked the whole way through. There's standard rate in player matches, but there's now online tournaments where you can compete with 48 players all around the world. It's mostly the same as offline, but with other people. As for how it runs, the matches that I had were completely fine and ran smoothly, although that's for only people who had a good connection. If one player has awful connection, then the gameplay can get a little bit messed up. I wouldn't say that Smash Bros. Brawl level is terrible, but it can get to a point where it's unplayable sometimes. Although there is a problem with people acting like pussies and disconnecting when they lose. There's nothing that really discourages people for doing this, so... But thankfully in Raging Blast 2, it's an automatic loss for you, which I guess is probably why most people are playing that game online more than this game. Another thing to bring up about online is that you can get a title for doing specific things like winning beam struggles, deflecting attacks, winning clashes, and the list goes on. This adds a little bit more to online than just making it all versus matches. And the last part of game modes is ultimate customization. Here you pick a character and customize their moves and stats. It's all kind of like a game of Tetris, where there's a box and you can stack it up with pieces. The box starts off pretty small, but you can upgrade it to fill the whole thing. Every box upgrade opens up how many squares a character can use. Some items can increase how much damage you can dish out or have a special effect like reducing the amount of ki while doing a signature move. What's pretty cool is that each character in every transformation has their own box, so you can make each transformation for a character do much more damage than the last transformation. You can also customize what moves a character can have and equip a specific set for them. This makes characters have a large variety of moves, which makes it a pretty fun customization system. So now that we have the game modes out of the way, let's get on to the main fighting mechanics itself. I mean, did you like Tenkaichi 3? I know I've been making a lot of BT3 comparisons this whole video, but the more you think about it, Raging Blast is just more BT3. I mean, even to the point where a lot of the ultimate attack cutscenes are just ripped straight out of BT3.
It's over!
Honestly, I feel like the reason why I love Tenkaichi 3 so much is because that a lot of it just reminds me of Raging Blast. Raging Blast is kind of like the next-gen Tenkaichi game, kind of like how Burst Limit was a next-gen Budokai game. But let's get into what the fighting is actually like. So like I said before, the game's fighting is more the same from Tenkaichi 3, but there's more added to it. You have a pretty basic controller setup. Square is where you can do your basic melee combat like punches and kicks. X allows you either dashing to your opponent or to get away from them. Triangle is block ki blast either far away or up close. You can also hold the triangle button due to a charge ki blast. And circle is to blow off signature moves like Piccolo's stretchy arms or Vegeta firing off multiple ki blasts at once. You can do a lot of combo chains by pressing the square button and then triangle at the right time to either trip them over or take the battle up in the sky. Guarding is on the R1 button, but you can press any of the face buttons to either throw your opponent, after image, counters, or sway. Counters are pretty easy to mess up, so you need to time them just right. You can also use the L1 and L2 buttons to rise up or lower down in battle. L2 is relegated to either transforming or switching out into other characters, but you need a certain amount of key to transform or switch out. You can go back to your base form if you want. Once an opponent is in the middle of switching, you can interrupt it and have a sky battle. You can pull off pursuit attacks, meaning once you get your opponents in the air, you can follow that up by kicking them up in the air, or pressing the square button with the analog stick to kick them in the angle that you want. While your opponent is down, you can charge your ki. Ki is your power meter and is needed to pull off super attacks. Super attacks are basic beam attacks like Kamehameha for Goku, Gala Gun for Vegeta, and Special Beam Cannon for Piccolo. There's also 2 new attacks you can pull off, that being the Command Supers, which has you press a button at a certain time, and Counter Supers, where you can interrupt an opponent's attack and switch around the fight for your benefit. This time, instead of using the L triggers and pressing triangle, now you can just pull them off with the right analog stick. I didn't really have any problems with how pulling off moves work in Tenkaichi 3, but it's nice that it's more simplified here. When you charge your ki to the max, you enter high tension mode where you can pull off your ultimate attack. Each character has 1 ultimate, except for Goku, who since he had 3 spirit mobs that he fired off in the show. Does anyone ever think about if Goku accidentally destroyed Namek with the spirit bomb he did on Frieza? Anyway, the ultimate attacks are one of the biggest highlights of the game for me, because they're mostly the same from Tenkaichi 3, but the presentation got a huge upgrade from PS2 to PS3. It's also pretty cool having a split scene for when your ultimate attack hits the opponent. I always thought that was pretty cool to see the tear on another player's face as we realize they're about to get blasted. But you're not completely out of any way to defend yourself though. This game also has a cancel system where you can cancel out a character's super attack or an ultimate attack if your time is good enough. Although the game doesn't tell you what can cancel and what can't, you have to figure it out for yourself. You can also deflect super attack, which adds on to the epicness from the show. You can also use the environments to your advantage now. This game doesn't have as many maps as VT3, but makes up for that for being bigger and being more destructive too. When you're near a wall, a prompt pops up for you to crash. This has you throw your opponent into a wall and renders them helpless, and you can do whatever you want to do with them until they get out. So that's pretty much how fighting in this game works. It might be pretty weird to get used to at first, but as you play the game more, everything just comes naturally. There's a lot of cool combos you can pull off, which makes the fighting in this game pretty fast-paced and addicting. I think that adapted Tenkaichi 3's fighting pretty well into the 7th generation, but overall the gameplay is pretty fun. There's a lot of content, fighting's pretty fun, feels great to pull off combos, but let's talk about the graphics now. For a game that came out in 2009, this game looks amazing. I mean, I've always thought that the game looks, but I never really got to appreciate how faithful this game looks in comparison to the show. I mean, besides Fighters, this might be the only Dragon Ball game that looks really close to the source material. Everyone here looks like they're taken straight from an episode from the show, and the stage environments are pretty faithful to the show too. And the fact that stages are way more bigger than they were in VT3, it really shows off how beautiful this game looks. Supreme Kai's planet looks gorgeous. Roman Planet Namek actually looks like a planet that's on the brink of destruction. I even love how in the Namek stage, you can even see the ship that Goku landed when he fought the Ginyus. I really love little details like that. And while the size of the beams have been toned down, there's a lot more detail too. My personal favorite is how base form Vegeta's Big Bang Attack looks different from Super Saiyan Vegeta's Big Bang Attack. And the same applies for Super Vegeta's Final Flash and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta's Final Flash. Also really love how some beams fade away if they miss, and when you charge up, the sky starts going dark. I really love when the cutscenes, when the Super Saiyan's hair started glowing when they're done with the fight. And probably the best part of the graphics is that the characters finally emo now. And it's not that the characters didn't show any emotions in Tenkaichi 3, I mean they can look mad what they wanted to, but it's done way better here. It's really cool seeing the reaction of some of these characters to being beaten up. While some of the mouth animations could look a little bit awkward at times, it's still a great looking game, and they finally got Frieza's transformations right for the first time. I also really like when a character takes a lot of damage during a battle. There's a lot of scratches, and when a character takes a huge blast to the face, you can see their clothes whip off. The attention to details in this game is really nice. Although the one thing about this game that hasn't aged well with the graphics is the character icons. While characters like Super Saiyan Goku, Gogeta, and Super Saiyan Vegeta look pretty cool, characters like Super Vegeta and Second Form Cell look like they're from an awkward photo in a high school yearbook. And for Super Saiyan Goku, it looks like they took a picture of him while he was in the middle of passing the world's most painful kidney stone. And for characters like Piccolo, Chaozu, and Godo, it's like they couldn't think of good poses to put them in, so they just had them sitting there, staring at you.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
This game also has a really weird clipping problem, because too often I see characters cut inside the ground or in a wall. It's never to a point where it's game breaking, so I won't be too harsh on the game here. Sadly, Raging Blast doesn't really fix the camera problems from Tenkaichi 3. Honestly, I think it might be even worse here. It's really easy for the camera to get stuck when you're fighting near a wall, and it's pretty annoying when it happens too. But you can dash away from the wall, which fixes the problem for a majority of the time. But still, it's crazy the amount of times I got the camera stuck while I was fighting near a wall. But I don't think that it's really as bad as people make it out to be. But besides those weird problems, the collision detection is pretty decent, and that's very important for a fighting game. And all the stuff that I just talked about were pretty minor. Overall, the game is pretty nice to look at and aged pretty well for a game that's almost 15 years old now. The game's soundtrack is definitely my favorite in any Dragon Ball Z game. This OST was made by the same guy who did Tenkaichi 3 soundtrack, and while I don't remember a lot of songs from BT3, the composer needs a goddamn award for this soundtrack because the songs in this game really gets you pumped up to fight, and it goes along pretty well with story mode fights too. I love the main theme progression. It's just a great song for this game, and the instrumentals used for this song are just perfection. There's a lot of variety of songs in this game, and while most songs in this game are pretty fast-paced and upbeat, others are pretty relaxing and soothing. I'll just play a couple of my favorite songs from this game. I'm pretty sure I will have more samples, but at this point I'll probably just be adding the entire soundtrack in this video. Although this game's soundtrack is a bit of an acquired taste since there's a lot of electric guitars in a lot of these songs, so you'll either be listening to it like this, or listening to it like this. I mean, I love these songs, but I have an obvious bias, so of course I would say that. But if you're not already into guitars, then you're in for a rough time then. Honestly, the only problem I have with the songs in this game aren't even the songs itself, but the fact that they don't loop whenever a song's about to end. Seriously, when a song ends in this game, it's just dead silence until the song starts again. At first, I just thought that this was a problem with the first game, but apparently this has been going on for 15 years up to this point. But let's talk about the voice acting now. The voice work is about what I expected from Funimation. Everyone here does a great job, and it doesn't feel like anyone's phoning it in. During fights, there's a lot of grunts, yelling, and screaming, and it feels like you're thrown right into the battle. But some characters, specifically Cell, sound kind of weird with their yells after being punched. And seriously, what's up with the way that Vegeta says "behold" here?
To show them a Super Saiyan among Super Saiyans. Behold!
Was Chris Savage being stabbed during that take? Like seriously, the delivery that long always sounded off to me even when I was younger. But overall, everyone sounds great in this game. This was actually the last game to have the original Funimation voice actors in a Dragon Ball Z game, before the voice actors in Kai replaced them, which means this was the last game to have Linda Young voice Frieza, the last game to have Stephanie Netherland voice Kid and Teen Gohan, and the last game to have Kyle Herbert as the narrator. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'll leave that up to you. A lot of the sound effects are more on the same level as the show now, like Charging Ki. The boost sound effects. It's always draining sound.
Thank you for the energy.
But the overall sound is pretty great stuff. So with all the stuff to do here, all the game modes, and all the things that you can mess around with, this is probably the one fighting game that I put the most hours into that wasn't Smash Bros. Brawl back in the early 2010s. With all the content that this game has, I feel like there's a lot for people to enjoy here. I honestly don't think that you have to be a fan of Dragon Ball Z just to enjoy this game. Well, I wouldn't say that you should drop everything just to get this game, but Raging Blast is still a fun time no matter what. I mean, yeah, there might be some stuff that I don't really like, like how stars are handled and or the weird camera, but I don't think that is enough to diminish the amount of fun I had while playing this game. Playing this game for the first time in years just made me remember how much I used to love this game. I mean, this game is really addicting. Like, it was supposed to be 1 hour sessions turned into 5 hour sessions. Like, I just couldn't put my controller down, and if that's not an example of a game getting better with age, and I honestly don't know what is. Like, just for this video alone, I already got half of the trophies for this game, and honestly, while this video is going up, I'm probably still playing this game. It's really that fun. And hey, while some people like my brother don't really like this game all that much, I've mostly comments from people saying that how this was their favorite Dragon Ball Z game, and the game did well enough to get a sequel, so that has to count for something, right? Most people I know would typically say that Raging Blast 2 is the better game in the series, since it expands a lot more on the fighting mechanics established in the first game, and since it has more characters, and I'll admit, fighting in Raging Blast 2 is just as fun as it is in the first game, and a bigger character roster is always appreciated, but I still think that the first game is still worth checking out. Although I might just be saying that since I always had a soft spot for the first game. Let me rephrase that. Although I might just be saying that since I've always had more memories with the first game than the second. Maybe one day I can go into the other games that have been released since I've played a lot of them. And I could go into the anime itself since I'm still a huge fan of the series. And I can already see you guys commenting if I'll ever remake my review on Raging Blast 2. And honestly, I might. But I really want to make sure that I have my thoughts together for that one, but it was fun revisiting this game, and it feels pretty good to give another review a big upgrade, and give this game a load of justice. But anyways, for this next review, I'm going to be going back to Sonic with this one, but you have to join my Discord server to find out what it is. It's actually going to be 2 Sonic videos. I'm actually really excited about doing those videos, and after that I'm going to announce the marathon that I teased in my Sonic Forces video. But until that video comes out, I'd really like for you guys to check out the Let's Plays that I do on the channel. Right now I'm doing a Let's Play on Sonic Rush Adventure, so it would be really cool if you guys could check those videos out, at least for when the main stuff comes out. But with that out of the way, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.